Then here div is using ng if. Fine. Ng if, and here we are defining. So the message. So ng if txt name dot touched. That means if it is touched. Okay. And it is invalid. Or you can do one thing. You can verify these messages on submit. Touched already, I showed you in the last session. Suppose if I say I'm using both validation, FRM register dot submitted, that means form is submitted and txt name is invalid, then these two messages should come. Okay. And this first message should come when required invalid. Then here we will put an ng if this is related to txt name dot, we have errors. Errors is a set of all errors of HTML, and errors, which error? So required error, that we have to message. That means now this span will display only when there is a required problem. Similarly, the another message ng if txt name dot errors, if it is min length error. So that means this set of errors will be displayed when invalid. And in these two errors, which error to display, that depends on that particular error type, whether it is required or whether it is min length. So to handle a specific validation error, we need this errors object. Similarly for mobile, this div should display. So ng if, it should display when form is submitted, and txt mobile is invalid. And first message should display ng if first message to display when mobile is having an error called required. Txt mobile dot errors dot required, and the second message should display. So when txt mobile is having an error called related to pattern error, required errors. So let's save this, and you can see here now. Now no messages are there here. Why? Because we are displaying messages only on registered. On register button click without entering the details. When they click, it shows name required, mobile required. Let's keep that with the red color here. So this div will have a class text danger. And here also div will have a class text danger. If there are set of errors, then keep all them through this technique. Now I click on register, then it says name required, mobile required. And here I'm entering name, then it will display like name too short. Okay, now John, that is fine. Mobile required, and it says mobile invalid. Because it needs to start with +91, that is okay. That's how generally we have to handle the validation error. Now at the top, I remove one character, it says name too short. And I remove all the characters, then it says name required. The message will be changing. So that means for every message, we can handle a specific, for every message we can handle a specific. This is very much required, especially when you are dealing with a set of errors in a single element. So we cannot handle that just by using invalid, because every error is invalid. Then we need to use these errors. So syntactically we have to define in this way. That means if txt txt name dot invalid, if it is invalid, now come to the span and check here errors. Ngif txt name dot errors dot, is it required error? Then display required message. And similarly, so if it is ngif, if it is some errors dot pattern error, then say some pattern error like this, and close the div. That's how we define. So example is simple. So we have only one option here, input validation dot component dot html, and this is the validation for that. This is the validation here. Now one more important issue here is when you are dealing with validation, generally every field cannot be validated, every element cannot be validated with predefined validations. So many times we have to write our own validations, generally custom validation. So we need to know how to deal with the custom validations. Actually, custom validations actually. Custom validation is nothing but you can write a validation function to verify the input value. You can write a validation function to verify the input value, and you can conditionally display error message. So you can write a validation function to verify the input value, and you can manage that. You can conditionally display error message for that. How we can configure that? How do we define that? How we can configure? Because every validation cannot be handled with the default validations we are having. Just like yesterday I showed you, select element is there, and you cannot use a select element. You cannot use select element with required like attributes or pattern like attributes. So for example, so let's see one simple option here. I will add a div and label as select city, and we have select div. In that we have select. So name as LST cities. Okay. So and hash LST ng model. Okay. And hash LST cities is equal to ng model. Class as a form control. Okay. Now here we need to display. Here we need to configure, yeah. So options. First option is choose